Hi, thank you for joining me for day 21 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life. And today's sketch is by Dana Terry, and I'll pop it up in the top left-hand corner there. So at the moment you can see I'm just showing you my new dies from Ellie Studio. These were in the October release and their border dies are absolutely fantastic. So I've used a few of those today on that black border strip that you can see on the left-hand side. It's like a notebook strip. And then the two tab files that I've created using the 6x8 paper pad. So I'm using Spectrum Gardenia from 49 and Market. And as you can see, I've just pulled out various papers. I'm using the orangey yellow one as my background, and then that stripy one, which I absolutely adore, to mat the photos on along with the black piece. So I'm just matting my 3 photos onto some white cardstock. These are all 3x4 photos. And once again, it's from our Billy Joel concert that my daughter and I went to in Hyde Park in London in the summer this year. I'm creating an album of all the different songs that he sung. So these are just screenshots of the videos that Amelia took each time he sung a new song. So the photos aren't fantastic quality, but it's just the memories that I wanted to record. I wanted to record his playlist, and so adding the song titles to each of the series of photos will work really nicely. We were very fortunate to be very close to him, so although some of the photos are of the screens above him, some of the photos are actually zoomed in photos of him, like the one on the right hand side, so it's a bit fuzzy, but we were only about 10 or 11 rows back. It was amazing. So I'm just creating my layers, as you can see from the sketch. I wanted to add these tabs just to add a bit of height to the left-hand side and a bit of interest. And once these are down, I can start working out what else I'm going to do with the layout. So just checking with my trimming, and then I'm going to go around the edges of both of these papers with my distress tool. Sorry, I couldn't think what that was called then. My edge distresser from Tim Holtz, and just create some light texture around both of them. So gluing those two together, I've trimmed off the black paper because there was no point in having the whole sheet hidden behind everything. It wasn't going to peek out anywhere, so I just trimmed that off to use for another time, and then I've added the photos. So now I'm going to start looking to see what else I've got. I definitely want to bring in this notebook piece that I die cut from black cardstock, and then that circular element on the bottom left hand side, I decided to use this film reel. So just tucking in a ticket, and I'm trying to focus on the reds and blues on this layout as much as possible. They're the colours that I see in the photos. So just pulling out those elements. I find that circle piece that says "oh yes," it's a tag, but I think that might work nicely as that circle underneath the tags at the bottom of the photo. And now I'm just pulling out a film strip, which I think will work nicely on the left hand side, again in red. That's from the laser cut elements from this collection. I've also got a couple of tickets there, a white one and a red one. So this is building up nicely. Now I'm going to create my tags, so just taking that black scrap that I'd cut from the layering piece before and just cutting the triangles off the edges, and then using my hole punch to create the hole in the middle. And there's my first tag done, so I've got 2 more to go. So I pull out this notebook piece, it's the purple notebook piece, and I think there are some lilacs and purples in these photos, so I think that will work nice. So just creating another tag here, and I only need the top bit really because it's going to be tucked behind, so it doesn't need to be too deep. And finally my third tag will be using this red paper. Again, it doesn't need to be too deep, so just cutting a small piece off and creating that tag shape, and this is the biggest of the 3. So just folding it in half to get the triangles equal on this. Because it's much bigger, it's harder to eyeball, so I decided to just fold that over without creating a crease because I didn't want it to crease. You just have to be careful with heavy papers like these 49 and Market ones that you don't get that feathering or creasing if you fold it in half. So this is a Flair badge that I created for Spectrum Gardenia, and it just says captured on it, and that blue works really nicely. So adding that in there, and I'm going to start gluing the elements down to the main mat because I haven't decided exactly where it's going to sit. I know I'm going to use my Ellie Studio Large Jane stamps for my title, which is what I'm doing with all of these photos for this album. So just sticking this together as one big photo mat, and then I can move it around the page to make sure it's in the right place once the title has been stamped. So gluing everything to the base, keeping it off the cardstock, which is going to be my main piece, my 12 by 12. I'm just fiddling around to check that I'm happy with positioning. If you've watched me before, you know I do a lot of fiddling and faffing. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm sorry if you can hear that in my voice. And so distressing the edges of these tags as well, just to match in with the layering that I did behind the photos. And again, getting those stuck down to the photo block. So while I'm doing this, please don't forget to check the description box down below to see everybody else who's joining in on this fabulous hop. There's a playlist that Christie's created for us, and there is also a Facebook group, which is 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life. There are some questions that you need to answer when you try to join the Facebook group, so please answer those honestly, because Christie wants to keep it a safe place, so she won't let you in if you don't answer. Tell her that I've sent you. That would be lovely, and I look forward to seeing you there. There's so much inspiration over there. It's well worth joining if you're on Facebook. So I'm just creating some more layers. I felt like it felt a bit empty somehow, and I needed to bring a little bit more colour. So I'm bringing in some orange. This is just a branding strip from one of the other papers that I'm sticking along the bottom. So again, I've distressed the edge, and that second half of that white ticket, I'm just auditioning to see if I can add that somewhere, and I decided to bring that orange strip again into the right hand side, so it looks like a continual piece right the way across the bottom. And there we have it. Just sticking that down. And still deciding exactly where it's going to sit. So bringing in my old favourite, some tangled thread, just in black, to bring that black down to the bottom. Because I've got that on the top, on that tab piece, I wanted to bring that down a little bit as well, into that left-hand corner. And then this notebook piece that I had used previously to create the tag, I decided to add as a layer on the right-hand side there. So this is from the laser cut elements. And it's just another layer. And it's bringing that lilac over to the right-hand side. So now I'm going to create that cluster in the top right hand corner. It's just 3 banner pieces that Dana's created. So one in that lovely stripy paper that I'd used for the file tab. I'm creating one from that white ticket that I've been looking at before. And the third one is from a scrap of orange, which is actually the paper I'd cut the file tab from. It's the reverse of that stripy paper. It was just a piece that was lying on my desk, and I thought that orange would work really nicely with the black chevrons on it. So gluing those in place, and I shall look for a circular element. And first of all, I find this red one, but ultimately I do change that out because I didn't like the sentiment. I can't remember what it said. I think it was all my heart or something, and it wasn't quite right. So bringing that notebook piece back into the bottom, and that adds that black back in at the bottom. So here's where I swap out that circle. This one just says The Good Life, and it's much better for me. And then a lilac piece at the top that says Photograph Memories. So just gluing that down. And this is really starting to take shape now. So I also found this Good Times. It's a tag, but I just hide the tag hole behind it and just have the words. So here I am now with my title. I've decided that I'm happy with the positioning of everything so far, and this song was New York State of Mind, so I'm just writing out State of Mind first of all with the stamps, and then I can add New York on top, but I want to make sure that I get this in the correct place first. It needs to be just above the photo block, but not too high. So I spell it out with as many of the stamps as I can. I've just left a space for that second T, and then pick it up with my stamp block. And I do have to do a little bit of manoeuvring just to make sure that it's straight. And then I can stamp that down onto the layout. So using my black archival ink from Ranger, I want to do some mixed media over the top, so I need something that's permanent and isn't going to bleed when I add water. So there's the main part of the title, and then I'll peel off that T, add it to a small block, and then stamp that in the space that I'd left. I will turn the layout round to the side, just so that it's easier to see that it is in a straight line. So now that's down, I can do exactly the same thing with the top part of the title, which is New York. So I'm going to add that to the block and then work out exactly where I want to position it, because I didn't know whether I wanted it lined up above the S or offset. And when I put it down, it's clear to me that offset looks better. So exactly the same, adding my archive link, and then I shall stamp that down above the title. There we go. And now, if you've watched my videos for a while, you would have seen me doing the previous layouts I've created for this album. And I take my white acrylic paint, which is very, very dry. I've had this over 10 years now, but I just water it down a little bit to get a watery paint. And then I'm going to paint inside each of those letters. I want it to be a little bit messy. I don't want it to be too neat, but I just think that emulates the rub-ons titles, the 12 by 12 rub-on titles from this collection, and works really nicely. So I'm going to water that paint down again and add some big splodges all over the page, and then I leave that to dry overnight. You'll see, I think I've added loads, so I really go for it here. Bring the photo mat in and it's almost all covered. So I do have to add some more. Just using my hand as a shield so that it doesn't go all over the place, because I really am giving it some welly. So almost there, just a little bit more. And I'm helping it with my paintbrush to create some bigger splotches. Look, you can see it's going all over my hand there as well. And then I leave that overnight to dry. So while that's been given time to dry and I come back to it with fresh eyes, because I've used that green circle at the top right, I want to bring some more green in around the page. So first of all, I'm going to add the wax twine to the tags. So just threading that through all three. I have a bit of a fiddle because I pushed it through the purple tag and I should have brought it from behind so that it lays better on the page. So there you'll see me having a bit of a fiddle and a faff with this before I get it right. And it's just going to trail along the bottom of the page. I will use my tiny attacher stapler to staple that down shortly. But for now, I just leave it until the whole mat is glued down on the page. So here I am, bringing things in from the back rather than the front. It just sits better on the page when you do that. And there we go. So I can just trim off the very long ends and then leave that to one side. And then here are the green bits that I pulled out to add around the page. So I've got a little postage stamp to add to that left-hand piece, a ticket from the 49 and Market, Ticket Essentials, in the bottom right-hand corner there, and then another ticket that I'll add to the top of the page here. And that just brings that green all the way around the page and makes it a bit more cohesive. Because there isn't green in the pictures, but I've been introduced it at the top, it looked a bit odd just being the only piece. I also wanted to bring the blue up to the top there as well, because I've got it everywhere else on the layout. So it's just making that everything makes sense and is cohesive. So now I decided to bring in these rub-ons. These are the 6x8 rub-ons, and they're like a text rub-on. I felt like the background was very clean. Even though I've added those splatters of white, it still needed something else. So I spend my time just cutting off chunks of the rub-ons and then rubbing them onto the background, each time moving that photo mat and then moving it back in place, because I just want them to peek out from behind the photo mat and also around the title. So I do take quite a bit of time doing this, but it's well worth it in the end. You'll see it makes such a difference to that layout. These rub-ons are absolutely fantastic. They do, 49 and Market do Essentials rub-ons in various colours to match the other colours that they've done in their Essentials range, and I shall certainly be looking at those to bring into my stash, because I really love how this changes the layout so much. It really is the finishing piece. It elevates it to the next level, so to speak. So as I say, just going round and round, cutting off little bits, seeing where else it needs a little bit, and then rubbing that on. And even though I feel like I added loads, it did take a little bit of time to do all this. It was well worth it. And I've still got over half a sheet left, so they are excellent value for money. Can you hear that rain? It's a terrible rain this morning. I'll be taking Amelia into college shortly. So almost there now with these rub-ons. I want to bring them up around the title. So this is the first piece that I'm going to add to the right of that State of Mind. And then another bit next to the New York. Just building them up. If I feel like there's not enough, or if it looks too blocky, you can layer them and add them next to one another. And then I want to bring some to the left as well. So just adding that next to that S. So now I need to work out where this block's going to go. So just adding loads of wet glue to the back and gluing that down. I want the tabs to just sit underneath that title and make sure that it's central as well. And all this time I've been doing this layout, I haven't realised, because I've used the reverse of the paper, that I've still got the branding strip on, so it's actually wider than it is deep. So I do have to trim off tiny bits from the left and right hand side to make it square, and that's why this photo makes it look a bit smaller. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed this layout. I thoroughly enjoyed creating it, and I shall see you tomorrow for day 22. Bye.